The turmoil of the Boats Against the Current album with Eric Carmen and him working with Elton John's famous producer who we lost a few years ago, Gus Dudgeon. I'm going to put a link to what Eric Carmen said via an article in Ultimate Classic Rock, one of my favorite online classic rock sites. Boats Against the Current is a line from F. Scott Fitzgerald's book, The Great Gatsby. And on the album, he has Nigel Olsson, Elton's longtime drummer, Paul Buckmaster, who did the strings for Elton, Brian Wilson and Bruce Johnston from the Beach Boys, Jeff Porcaro's on there, Andrew Gold on guitar. But if you read the article after watching this video, you'll realize that it was an arduous task. It cost like $375,000 to make, which was like 6 times what it would have taken to make an album back then in the mid-70s. I think this was 77. But in the article, Eric Carmen is most bewildered by the fact that Gus Dudgeon, the producer, didn't know the difference between guitars because that wasn't his thing. He comes around to realizing that maybe, as far as he knows, the magic with Gus Dudgeon is him being an excellent engineer, even though most people will tell you he's an excellent producer, really. But since Caleb Quay, our guest today, certainly knew Gus Dudgeon, we had to ask.
Eric Carmen wrote this thing. I'm not sure when it was written. I was recording my radio show. I still do a show for Vancouver in the little room back there. And he had written like Boats Against the Current. He got Gus Dudgeon. He wanted Gus Dudgeon to produce it, which is, I think, the album after the All By Myself album, the self-titled album, which was his first solo album.
Oh, right.
So and I really like the album a lot. I can understand why he didn't make it. But he said he had Gus Dudgeon in there. And he said, well, I want to do this. And I'm paraphrasing like crazy here, but he said, I want to do it in this chord. And Gus had told him, he said, well, I wouldn't know the difference between that. I just know the way it feels, the way it should sound. That's all it would. Did Gus not know notation? And do you remember?
Oh, notation? I don't think so. Music notation?
Like chords? Like, did he just know in his head what he wanted it? Because obviously he was quite successful.
Oh, sure, yeah. No, he didn't know chords and stuff, music, none of that.
See, I don't know why that surprised me, but I mean, look what he came up with.
Yeah. No, he knew sound. Yeah, in rooms, and of course, back in those days, again, this is back in analog days. Right. You know, Gus was great at recording drums because he understood how to mic a room. That's a lost art these days.
Yeah.
Because of digital and everything, you know. So, but back in the analog days, a good engineer, he had to know the room. That's a lost art. So the drums sound good in that corner, the piano sounds good over there, the guitars sound good. You know, they would map out the room. They would know exactly what sounds best in the room. You know, there's also Bernard Purdy's drums in Atlantic Studios in New York City back in the 60s were nailed to the floor. And nobody was allowed to move those drums under threat of death, you know, because that is where the drum sound was happening.
Wow. I know his son. He's a good drummer too. Very groove, like his dad, just gets in the pocket, stays there, and man doesn't move. Like the Jeff Porcaro thing of going, wow.
Mm-hmm. So that's a lost art. You know, those engineers, they knew where, you know, same with EMI, the whole thing, you know.
Wow. I hope you enjoyed that. We'll have more from Caleb Quay in the next few days. If you want to pick up his new book, a new version of the new book, updated, there is links at the very top of the description. Remember, if you want to help the channel, the 2 P's are there. Patreon, you can have early access to our videos. Or if you simply want to make a donation to Rock History Music or Rock History Book, the link is at the very top of the description for PayPal. Or simply buy a t-shirt. Remember to like our videos. It makes a big difference. And if you like what you see, subscribe to our channel, share our videos on social media, and make a comment. We always read the comments. I'm John Beaudin. This is Rock History Music.